Welcome to the Careers by Jen podcast, episode 228. On this episode of the podcast, Jen reflects on how and why your work matters. Take that, Platinum Blonde.
You're listening to the Careers by Jen podcast. I'm your host, Jen Swanson. This is the podcast that helps you to get the job, love your work, and advance your career. Careers by Jen is a listener-sponsored podcast, and if you like the content, please consider supporting the show as a patron. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. Head over to careersbyjen.com and click on support to learn more. Happy second half of summer, friends, and thanks for listening. Today, my message is this: your work matters. Let's talk about why this statement is important and, I think, true. Today, I want to look at 4 aspects of this idea that your work matters, and we'll see where that takes us. I think as a preacher and a teacher, my main repetitive, pervasive message to everyone, no matter whether I'm in a secular classroom or in a boardroom or on a stage or in a religious setting like a retreat or a church sanctuary, no matter what subject I'm teaching or speaking about, or what text I'm preaching on, my message seems to always be that you are enough. Yes, you who is listening to this right now, you who are unlike any other human being on the planet. You are a unique expression of life, and no one else can do things the same way that you can. They might try, but they will not be exactly like you. It's impossible. You are you, and no one else can be that. And this is not to say you can't learn and grow and change and develop new skills and get better at things, because of course you can. But what I'm saying is that you can contribute value to whatever work you're doing just because you are the one doing it. So let's look at the first aspect of the 4 that I'm talking about. Well, we seem to get the impression, I don't know where we get this impression, but the impression seems to be out there that you have to do big things to matter, or you have to be someone famous or have a massive impact on lots and lots of people. But you know what? It doesn't have to be grand or lofty. If it matters or makes a difference to even one person or to a particular situation, or even if it just matters to you, then it has meaning. Then you are contributing value. So it would be good to reflect a little bit on what or who your work is for, who benefits from the work that you do, and what happens if you don't do it. What happens if suddenly you can't do your work one day? Who's affected? What is the impact? You know, small things make big differences. Have you ever been camping and had a mosquito in your tent? Right? Yeah, that can, or a spider, that can clear a room. So it doesn't have to be something big. In fact, sometimes the smallest details and attention to the smallest detail makes the difference and really matters. How you greet somebody, the extra care that you take when you're doing something, the finishing detail. I write in my book that's called What They See, How to Stand Out and Shine in Your New Job. I have a story in there about a woman who makes sandwiches at a local training institute. It's a training institute that trains law enforcement and firefighters and first responders, and then all manner of other programs that I have taken some coaching training and stuff there. And this woman works in the cafeteria, and she is the sandwich maker. And I talk in the book about how she makes each sandwich with the utmost of care. And she smiles and she looks people in the eye and she takes time to talk to each person. All the time she's doing that, she's making their custom sandwich to perfection. And you know, it doesn't sound like very much. until you've experienced this particular person doing this particular job, because she does it like nobody else. And people are actually willing to line up and wait for her to make them a sandwich, because she does her job with such heart and such care and attention to detail, and people just love her. I'd never witnessed anything like it. My book, shameless plug, is actually on sale on my website right now at careersbyjen.com. You just go to the top menu and you'll see book, and I will sign a copy and send it to you if you are interested. So check that out at careersbyjen.com and click on book if you're interested in having a copy of that. Anyhow, don't worry about being grand. It was Mother Teresa, and I'm going to mess up the quote, but Mother Teresa said something like, do the little things or do the small things with great love. It's not about doing great things. It's about doing the small things with great love. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect that I wanted to talk to you about today is that your work mattering is that it matters as you are doing it. It's not only about achieving outcomes. It's not a race to the finish line. I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of job you're doing, but the process that you undergo in getting somewhere counts too. How you get to where you want to be, that old cliche of the journey mattering, the journey is often just as important, if not more important, than the destination. What you do today, what you do right now, can contribute to what you will have in your back pocket in the future, as far as experience, as far as growth and learning goes in the future. It's all building up, and every single thing is adding to that depth of experience that you will then have, that nobody can take away from you. Experience with people and with situations and with customers or clients, with projects, experience with challenges, with risk, with celebrations, with achievements, and with failure, which is really important. It's so important to learn how to fail well. And all of this is part of it. All of this matters now. Another part of that is that what you do now, not what you're going to do in the future, is what matters right now, because you really only have right now. The future is an imagination. The past is what's been, what's done, what you can't change. And so right now is all that actually counts. And sometimes we seem to be waiting. We seem to be waiting to get somewhere, and then life will begin, and then things will be great. We seem to be waiting for the right opportunity or the right connection or the right boss or the right relationship. And this is what I call hanging hope on the future instead of being present in the now. So are you hanging hope on the future and waiting until something happens, rather than focusing on what you can do, being present in the now? This isn't to say that you can't hope, especially if things are not good where you are right now. But hope is not very helpful without action, is it? So what about what you are doing right now matters? And to whom does it matter? And if you honestly can't answer that question, then it might be time to reevaluate what it is you are doing. Usually, there's an answer somewhere. This woman was making sandwiches. It would have been so easy to say, well, all I do is make sandwiches. But my goodness, the lineup of hungry people said otherwise. And they could have gone to all the other places in that food court, but they often were lined up to see her and to have that little bit of human connection with someone sweet in the day. If you don't believe in what it is you're doing or in the purpose behind it, well, that's a different thing altogether, and probably a whole other podcast episode. But the thing is, your job actually, regardless of what it is you do, your job in life is to be useful. Now, that could be arguable. That's a subjective statement. But really, no matter what your work is, it presumably is useful to someone. And so if that's the case, how can you be even more useful than you are currently being? What can you do to learn more right now? What can you do to be more efficient or more effective to make someone else's life easier by doing what it is you do better? One of my roles in my early working career was to be a liaison between doctors and nurses in a hospital setting. I was what is sometimes called a unit clerk or a health unit coordinator or a nursing unit assistant, nursing unit clerk. There's lots of different names for it. If you don't know what it is, I actually wrote a blog post years ago that started off as a newspaper article in a print newspaper. And then I turned it into a blog post, and it's one of the most downloaded of my blog posts ever. And it's on my website under blog. If you take a look, it's called What is a Nursing Unit Clerk? And you can actually probably just Google it and it'll be the top hit. But anyway, I did that job for a number of years in the hospital system before I went into teaching and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what I did and how efficiently I did it had a direct effect on the well-being of the patients in my care. And I say the patients in my care, not because I was ever hands-on with them in any way, but because what I did helped them to be cared for. If I got the paperwork filed to requisition the lab to come and draw blood, a blood test in a timely manner, well, then the results got back into the hands of the doctor faster, and then the patient got treated faster. It made a direct difference. I mean, there were other people involved in the chain, but whether I got that into the system in a timely manner definitely made a difference. If I made sure the correct diet was ordered, then the patient would get their food delivered when they wanted it. If I sent information about medications to the pharmacy efficiently and correctly, then the nurse could administer the drug sooner and the patient might feel better. If I noticed supplies were low, I would order them before they ran out, or if anyone needed them urgently, they would be there. I knew when people were being moved around, and I would call the housekeeping people to come and clean the bed so we could get people in from the emergency department who were sitting down there waiting for a bed. There were so many parts of that job that if I did my work efficiently, it made a real difference. And, if the nurse needed some documentation and I knew that he or she needed it, then I tried to have it ready before they even needed to ask me for it. It was kind of a game to me. It was a game to be so darn on top of it all that I could almost anticipate what someone would need or want handy, and I would have it there so that when they would turn to ask for it, it was already there. It didn't happen all the time that way, but it was awfully fun when it did, right? And I may have been, just the clerk, as some would say, but I was very, very satisfied knowing that what I did and how I did it mattered to a whole lot of people. And, one of the ways that I knew that what I did mattered is I'd walk in to work in the morning sometimes and people would say, "Oh, thank goodness you're here." Or if I was off and I'd come back, "Well, we're so glad you're back," because I would do things in a way that was really useful to people and really helpful. And it did matter. And this is the same for you. I mean, we've all encountered people who just don't care. I'm sure you've got stories of people that you've encountered in the workplace who just don't care, and it shows. We've had to work with people like that, and it's painful. We've also encountered people who grab power and take credit where it's not due. And that kind of behavior is even more painful and difficult to deal with. But you know what? We can't control how other people choose to operate in their careers. The only thing we can do is choose how we operate and what we do. And I don't care if you're serving popcorn at a movie theater, or you're making sandwiches, or you're a top CEO. Your work matters in varying ways. You are being useful. How you perform your duties with a smile or not, with efficiency or skill or not, with heart or not, with purpose or not, is noticeable. And perhaps you're in a job that's temporary for you and you think, meh, there are lots of jobs out there. This is just one to pay the bills for now. I'll get a better job and then it'll be good. And then I'll be good at it. But guess what? Every job you have, whether it's babysitting when you are a teenager, or your first few summer jobs, or your first actual adulting job, every job you have is an opportunity to get better and to be more useful and more efficient and to practice being in relationship with your colleagues and to practice responsibility and accountability and to practice being an excellent employee. And that's actually aspect number 3 that I wanted to talk about. It's all experience. Every job you have is an opportunity, or it can be an opportunity, to practice your human relations skills and to practice being a good or a great, or my hope for you is an excellent employee. And good, great, and excellent employees are actually not that easy to find. If you talk to employers, as I often do, this can be a real challenge at times. If you are willing to do your best, to show up, and I don't mean just physically or on time, I mean to show up in every way and work because your work matters, you will be a valuable part of your organization and it will be noticed just the same way that we notice when people don't care. People notice when you do care. You could end up with more opportunity. You could be trusted more. You could be offered opportunities for advancement. I've seen it happen. It's not always easy for employers to find employees that they trust. And when they do, they will often do whatever they can to keep them happy. So your work matters. Whenever I've done student workshops on interview skills, students are always surprised to know that babysitting and lawn mowing and other such beginner jobs that many of us have as teenagers, that these are valuable experiences to add to a resume. Often they will say, well, I just babysat, or I just mowed my neighbor's lawn, or I just volunteered. Sometimes moms or parents who take time off from their careers and end up volunteering at the school are a bit worried about including that kind of work on resumes when they re-enter the paid workforce. And I say the opposite. I say absolutely include it, because volunteering shows depth, and it shows that you're doing it not just for the money, right? You're doing it for other reasons. It's very, very important. My goodness, if we go back to babysitting, if someone trusted you enough to care for their precious child, then you showed responsibility and reliability, and care and compassion. If someone let you use heavy machinery, I mean, I don't know if you'd call a lawnmower heavy machinery, but if someone trusted you, you didn't damage yourself or others or the lawn, you cut the grass nicely, well, then you're able to take direction. And volunteer work as well. You know, if you are willing to do something to help others, in a situation where it's not transactional, you're not getting something back like a paycheck for it. Well, that is absolutely valuable and important and good experience. You did it and you showed up and you could be trusted with whatever your volunteer task was. That's gold right there on a resume. Now, the fourth aspect of knowing that your work matters is about connecting with others. If you can have some kind of meaningful connection with someone else in the course of your day, that could make all the difference to that person. So what connections are you making each day with your coworkers, with your clients, with people on the phone or in person? How can you do your work in a way that you connect somehow, even if you think you can't? Scott just came home and told me a funny story. He was at Costco If you don't know what Costco is, it's a big box store where you can go and get loads and loads of groceries and different things. And what they do is at the door, they check your bill at the door, and they cross off with a marker. I don't even know why they do this, but the person stands there, looks at your bill, and then crosses it off, looks at what you have in the cart, and you're okay to leave. Lots of times I'm not sure why the person doesn't seem to actually even look, but there are times they do look, so it's different every time. And this person looked at the bill and looked at his cart and said, do you have salmon burgers in your buggy? And he says, why, yes, I do. And she says, well, those are fishy patties. And I'm going to get the story wrong. But it was some comment that she made about, have an efficient day or something. And it was some crazy sassy thing that she said. And he just stood there and he started laughing. And he said, wow, he said, you are way too clever to work here. But it was very funny. She just made his day by making this little quip and being different at the door and being funny. And she just burst out laughing and she was having a great time. And it's that kind of thing. It's just making that connection and being humorous or being genuine or being different than the rote, boring, 9:00 at night at the grocery store, and the person doesn't even recognize that it's 9:00 at night and tells you to have a great day, when they hand you your bag. There are ways you can do this that are a little bit different. How can you do your work in a way that you can connect somehow, even if you think you can't? I watched a flag person, and I don't know if there are other names for the people who hold the stop sign and it's stop on one side and slow on the other in a construction zone. They're called flag people here. And I watched a woman direct traffic one day, and I maybe already mentioned this in a show, I can't remember, but she had a huge grin on her face. She had her hard hat on and her high-vis vest, and she had her stop sign in her hand. And with almost a flourish of her hand, she made eye contact with me. She had a huge grin on her face, and she moved her arm to indicate which lane to proceed into. But the way she moved her arm, she moved it as with this little flourish, as if she was inviting me into her living room. It was a truly non-verbal invitation. And she was smiling the entire time and sort of, flowing her arm in the direction I should go, and it was just so different because often people in that position will give you the eye contact because they have to for safety, right? But give you this firm eye contact and sort of send you the message that, you follow my directions or else kind of thing. Or else they have a very business-like, you go here, you stop, you go, direction. But there's not a lot of personality in it. It's kind of businesslike. But this woman seemed to be having this great time, and she was being hospitable in the way she did it. And I was watching, it was a four-way stop, and I was watching the other drivers, and every single one of them broke into a huge smile when she looked at them and did this flourishing thing to them. It was just so different and so noticeable and so nice. She was connecting with people in a meaningful way. And the fact that I'm still talking about her all this time later means that she had an impact. So the way you connect with others at the grocery store door, even in a small way, with a cheesy joke or this flourishing eye contact direction thing this flag person was doing, these can have lasting impressions. So those were my 4 aspects of ways to know that your work matters, ways that you can make your work matter, no matter what it is that you're doing. And I hope that you know that the work that you do does count. It does matter. And that you are, as I always encourage you to do, finding ways to learn and to grow and to become more self-aware. Because self-awareness is a lifelong project, and it is the best way to be a gift to the world. Our world so desperately needs more self-aware people in it. So good for you for listening to this and for working on that part of being human. Well, until next time, this is Jen. Happy summer and stay well. You've been listening to Careers by Jen with Jen Swanson. If you like what you heard, please share this. You know, if every single person listening today shared this episode with just one friend, our audience would be twice as big just like that. And the more people we can help with our content, the better. So help out a friend and help grow our audience by sharing this show with someone you know who would benefit from the content. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that, and together we can make a difference. Until next time, take good care.